Humans at Work. I'm thrilled to be joined today with Jess Pettitt. Thank you so much for coming on my show today, Jess. It's so good to see you.
It's amazing to qualify as a better human. I can't wait.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm excited to dig into that. I wanted to share a little bit about Jess's background with our audience. So Jess has spent nearly 20 years combining her background in diversity and inclusion with her talent for stand-up comedy, earning laughs while delivering powerful lessons on leadership and inclusion. A former university administrator turned sought-after keynote speaker, she's entertained and educated over 500,000 people with her Good Enough Now message, which we'll be digging into today, helping organizations take meaningful steps towards creating more inclusive and effective workplaces. Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
So I had the honor of meeting Jess at the Culture Impact Lab.
Yeah, correct.
Culture Impact Lab in Chicago. Was that just this year? Was that in the spring?
Yeah, that was in May, I think.
It feels longer ago because it had such a, for lack of a better word, impact on me. I feel like it was longer ago for some reason. But you were one of the very first people I met. There was a early, before the conference, an event for the speakers and the vendors. And I think you were the first person I met there. And you were just so warm and welcoming and really funny. And I didn't know, embarrassing, I didn't know that you used to do stand-up comedy. I didn't know that. I should have realized because obviously.
You know what's funny? This is an interesting pattern. So I was recently at a conference and at baggage claim, I promise there's a point. At baggage claim, landing in the city where the conference is, I tore my calf muscle. I'm old. I don't know how old you are, but like when you get into your 50s, you can like throw your back out while you're sleeping, right? Like weird things happen. So I show up at the conference, I'm limping. I had to Instacart myself a cane, whatever. The number of people that were like, oh my God, I had no idea you hurt yourself. And I was like, I didn't know that I hurt myself until I hurt myself.
Yeah.
And then I like also misdiagnosed and I'm stubborn or whatever. So I throw that at you in that, like, how could you possibly know if I was the first person that you had just met?
How could I possibly know?
How could you know that I was a stand-up comic? How could you know anything about me? We
Oh,
met
that's
like
true. Yeah,
in
but
the
then I
doorway of the event, right?
but
So
I watched you be such an incredible MC of the event, and your humor just shined through. And so that's why when I saw it, I was like, well, duh, she has a background in
all
stand-up
right.
comedy,
Yeah. And
obviously.
I did it with a head cold too, which was impressive.
With it a head, I know, but if anything, it reminded me of the Friends episode with Phoebe Buffay, and she got a cold, and she had like this like kind of sexy, raspy voice. Like you owned it. It just became part of your persona. So.
Yeah. It's been funny following up with people from the conference because they're like, oh, your voice is different. And I was like allergic to the venue or something because I would be totally fine until I walked into the space. And then I sounded like a chain smoking frog. It was great.
Still
But anyway,
nailed
yay for humor.
it. He
Humor
still
always
nailed
wins.
it. So thank you so much for coming on the show. I just feel like with your, Good Enough Now message and all the work you've done, like I'd love for the listeners to learn more about like what's been your journey into this work, and especially that integration of the stand-up comedian background and the humor. Like how have you found that? Like how have you found this sweet spot? Because I think you're just in a really great position at that intersection.
Well, I wish there was a really super Wednesday at 12 o'clock. But I think that specifically because you talk to so many like human resources folks too,
Mhm.
that I think it's important to mention that first off, there are transferable skills from other industries, right?
Yeah.
So when I really started focusing in on consulting and keynoting work, most of my potential customers or clients would be like, but you talk about such serious subjects, how you're not allowed to be funny when talking about oppression. And whoops, sorry, right? Like that's gonna happen. But I think that what ultimately, and not to get like all Buddhist or something, but like oppression is about pain and suffering,
Yeah.
and humor comes out of pain and suffering.
Yeah.
So to me, they're inseparable because it's a survival mechanism, it's a healing mechanism. And then as a person who holds that space, for people to gather as an MC or as the keynote or as the workshop or whatever hat I'm wearing at a given time. The great equalizer is laughter,
Yeah.
right? But I think that when we start talking about workplace, being better humans in the workplace, look at me on theme, a lot of times the microaggressions or the suppression or oppression people feel, frankly, inside of capitalism, exploiting their own physical, spiritual, emotional, and mental labor for somebody
Hmm.
else's profit, right? Like we're inside of a system of oppression. Humor is one of the few ways that people can kind of like join and build community together, feel safe with one another, survive that kind of environment. So to me, I just leaned into that intersection, but that comes out of my own experiences of being fired a million times and trying to
Mm.
the world and creating my own business. I've been running my own business for 20 years. It's a roller coaster, and humor has gotten me through it. So I can't separate them.
Yeah.
And now I lean into it as one of my biggest points of differentiation. So
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I think another benefit of humor, especially with the tougher concepts, is that it allows us to go there in a way that we wouldn't go there otherwise, right? Like
mhm.
having the humor almost gives us an armor about it that, we can dive into those conversations in a way that we couldn't have done if we were just all, straight faced about it. So I think it's really interesting. So let's break down Good Enough Now. It's the
Sure.
name of your first book. It's also the name of your company.
Hmm.
Where did this idea come from? And, can you break down what the Good Enough Now message really is?
Yeah, sure. So by definition, good enough now to me means doing the best you can with what you've got some of the time.
Mm,
So I'll say it again because the bar is so low that like people can't even hear it down there. But it's doing the best you can with what you've got some of the time. So I think it is important to mention that I don't speak to like orthopedic surgeons very often. So we're not talking about perfection. What we're talking about specifically when we start talking about DEI related issues, that from our places of privilege or dominance, we are less likely to intervene or interrupt or engage unless we feel like we're going to nail it. So then we just don't do it. But not doing it is a response, whatever the it is. So can you do something with the skills, the experience, the lived moments that you've survived, the tools that you currently have? Can you do something with what you already have occasionally? Just every once in a while, right? Every blue moon, just every once in a while. Because there's no reason why you can't do that.
yeah.
So that's good enough now, right? So the idea came from listening from my own audience members. They would come at me with the reasonings of why they couldn't intervene, join, build,
Mm,
pick a verb. And it sometimes it was blaming it on somebody else, or sometimes it was I have to do this first, then do this, or I have
yeah.
to get this certification, or it's not my job, it's someone else's job. Whatever. There's a million reasons to not do something.
Yeah.
And I also want to validate that those are real feelings, right? I experience those as well, but they're not 24/7. So
No.
every once in a while, I could still manage to like eke out something without being perfect.
Yeah. I love that. So, how do you translate that concept of doing the best you can with what you got some of the time to a workforce or to a leadership team? Like, how do you help people translate that and action that in a workplace environment?
Well, this is the downside of having me on your podcast that focuses on HR is your most HR professionals are working inside of a system where nuance is not available, right?
Mm,
And so that's the problem, right? It
mm,
is also the case that human resources are often the middle party because they're the people's people protecting the organization that's
yeah,
exploiting them, right? So they're stuck in the middle somewhere. So
yeah,
that's a very weird place to be. So we create policies and procedures that are supposed to be implemented 100% of the time, always, in every single example. And then HR is needed because that doesn't make any sense. That's not how humans work. So
Yeah.
then HR is the padding for the nuances of where it went too far, where it didn't go far enough, the inconsistencies. But there's also the lived culture of an organization. There's what's written down, and then the stuff like you don't poop in the bathroom by the elevator. Nobody says that. You just learn it real quick as a new employee that you pooped in the wrong place. So there's unspoken rules. Don't park in Barb's parking spot, right? Don't use George's coffee mug. There's these unspoken things that also make up the workplace culture. And we're just trying. Like, can we restore humanity enough to recognize that people are just trying?
Yeah.
And if we can remember that, then when Chuck says his inappropriate comment again, but is truly flabbergasted as to what it is that he said that was inappropriate and had good intentions that did not land well, instead of getting Chuck, did I name him Chuck?
I think
Instead of
so.
getting Chuck to the place where he refuses to communicate with other human beings, can we, like, where is the grace? Where is the humanity? Where is the, like, trying to work on things when we apply forever rules, right? So,
Yeah. Okay,
so
so two follow-ups
sorry.
to that. One
Yep.
about grace and one about accommodations. So I'll start with the grace one. So my forthcoming book, Act Like an Ally, Work with an Ally, has both sides of that ally partnership. So not just what allies do, but partners of allyship, recipients of allyship. And I have a whole chapter for that partner side of the book about grace, a whole chapter on it. And
Mm-hmm.
not to like indefinitely give a pass to someone,
Mm-hmm.
right? If Chuck, in your example, continued to say that thing and doubled down and put his heels in the dirt and and defended himself and didn't change his behavior, I would argue like, yeah, Chuck needs to get out of here, but what we give him grace, we give him the opportunity to change, right? We recognize, as you said, the humanity of we're gonna get it wrong. We're only human,
Right.
but there needs to be some accountability there too on the person to change as a result, the Chucks in the world, but
Mm-hmm.
also the person who is helping that Chuck change, and
Mm-hmm.
have that grace. So that was the first thing. The second thing is I've actually experienced a nuance facilitated by HR recently.
Great.
So before we went live, Jess mentioned how she had never seen me not bald before, and the space that we met was a very safe, inclusive, just lovely space with lovely people, and so I decided I'm just gonna be bald that weekend, but that's not like a typical way I present myself. As you know, if you watch these videos, I usually have different wigs on. I'll throw out the bald head from time to time, but like all in all, I'm just kind of mixing it up. So I had a part-time job and it was, people facing, and I didn't feel comfortable being, bald at work. And so I asked, can I wear my head wrap? And they first they said yes, and let's figure out the policy. So first they, just agreed to let me do it. And then we got a formal, you were saying the policies and all that, and HR is kind of like the gatekeeper. Well, there's an accommodation system, and I got a formal accommodation. I needed to know from my doctor. Like it wasn't easy, but like it was still there, and so I feel like that's progress, right? And I think DEI is progress
Right.
for recognizing the humanity of people, for recognizing the unique challenges and needs of people from various underrepresented or marginalized groups. So I think we're getting there, but there's a long way to go. I will acknowledge
But
that.
I think, I mean, I really want to honor the importance of the word nuance, right? So, like,
Mm-hmm.
we're drag Chuck through the mud. There is a possibility that Chuck is working the system, right? And
Mm,
that there's a lot of ways to give Chuck grace for way too long that feels silencing to the people who are registering complaints against Chuck. Um, Constantly doing a microaggression
yeah.
on purpose looks exactly like learning something slowly. right? So like I like to tell people, specifically white women, that when we make a commitment to focus on our cisgender privilege, our racial privilege, our class privilege, something like that, we make a consistent effort to study and learn and like do better, we are causing harm while learning how to do better. We're not absolved from the
Yeah.
harm cause
Yeah.
because we've decided to join a book club, right?
Yeah.
Like they go together. So I think that the nuance piece is, no, there is always going to be complications that you can't systematize into an always.
Yeah.
So the example that I like to use, just to get it out of hair, which I think it's funny, you talking about bald or wigs, people tell me all the time, like, oh, I wish I could use hair dye. And I'm like, girl, you do use hair dye. You just don't choose green, right? Like it's the same thing. It's just what are human colors, right? So I have a client that they founded their entire organization based on inclusion, social justice, etc. Right? Like, I mean, this is the start of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
So when that happens, that means everyone is welcome.
Yeah.
So then what they eventually had to do was modify these very inclusive policies that not everybody is welcome. So I had to help them decide who's welcome. And they're like, no, everybody's welcome. And I'm like, you have paid membership. You know who's not welcome? People who don't pay their dues. They're not welcome, right? Like, but we forget that, like, who do we intentionally or unintentionally exclude is part of naming who you do include.
Yeah.
When I use service animals as an example, this is too long of an answer, Jessica, you're being interviewed, but whose needs come first, right? Someone who has a support animal, someone who's allergic to dogs, someone who's scared of dogs, or someone who has a service animal that's actually registered, right? That is a dog. It's hard to have all four of those in the same space.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not always about a rule as much as it is a process in which to figure how are we going to navigate this. So I think the process matters. And that's nuance. Anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
Shut up,
For
Jessica.
sure. So what, as people continue working through, this concept in Good Enough Now, like, what do you think the biggest shift you hope that they embody when they start actually, manifesting this? How do I just do, what, like, the best I can with what I got,
Some of the time. Yeah. Some of the time. So part of the reason that Good Enough Now was written, what the book part of it was, that I believe our own lived experience is the best tool and resource we have. It also is probably the source of the biggest problems, right? Like, so how do we take responsibility for who and how we want to be in the world? And how do we intentionally close the gap between who we actually want to be and how people experience us, right? Like that's kind of the individual work of Good Enough Now. So my newest book, which is called Almost Doing Good, is actually the prequel, because I realize the leaders that I work with, they don't want to do their own work. And they certainly don't want to do their own work at work. Right. So doing their own work in their private time, maybe, but they don't want to do it as a leader inside of an organization. So transparently, it's too vulnerable. So I wrote Almost Doing Good as an organization, because we've given to organizations before we've even given human rights to all humans. So if an organization is going to have human rights, then it should know the organization's voice that we legally value now, right? Because that voice can donate money, it can vote, it can, like, it has political existence power. So if that organization can answer who and how it wants to be, then that's really leaning into those founders' values. Yeah. Okay, great. What were your founding values? Great. I mean, even if we talk about the United States and like the fall of democracy, what the founders meant and what the founders didn't mean is, what did James Joyce mean by the color gray in the Portrait of a Young Man as an Artist? I don't know. James was not a friend of mine, right? It's up for interpretation. Now we're back to nuance. Yeah. So for Almost Doing Good, to answer your question, what's the thing, right, is that it's not a step. I didn't come up with a linear model, but
Mm-hmm.
we have a comfort of preparation. We have a comfort of response. But the muscle that seems to atrophy, at least in my own life or what I see with my clients, is can we recognize a problem that we don't experience?
Mm.
So that's empathy, that's listening, that's paying attention. Just because I don't experience it doesn't mean somebody else doesn't. And if I have the resources to do something about that, now I can actually do some good in the world, right? So it's called almost doing good, because I use real case studies from my own clients of where there was good intention, but truthfully, if they hadn't done the thing that was mildly well intended, they wouldn't have caused even more harm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I love this. Okay, so for those watching, what would be 3 tips or pointers you would give for those who want to really embody this, good enough now mindset?
Well, if you want something quickie, you can go to jesspettit.com/survey and take a little 13-question survey. They're fun. It involves food trucks and puppies and Dolly Parton, but it is statistically reliable because I'm a dork. And that'll help you determine when kind of under pressure, are you more likely to show up in kind of a heady detail way, what I call hardy or kind of big idea way, or an action way.
Mm,
You can take the survey over and over again, but it's a good way to kind of test which way are you comfortable showing up with when you're uncomfortable. It
mm-hmm.
also is a great way to recognize that the people that you work with or surround yourself with likely are different.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So that'd be kind of step one. Step two, I think, is what I usually tell people is ask every day, ask somebody a question that you do not know the answer to.
Hmm.
It seems dumb, but we don't talk with people very often. We talk at people. And so to not be transactional, but to
Mm,
actually ask a question you do not know the answer to, helps flex that curiosity and empathy, right? Like,
mm-hmm.
Dr. V, what color socks are you wearing?
I'm not wearing socks. I'm barefoot right now.
Right. Isn't that interesting? Great, right? We have that in common, for the record,
I
right?
love it. I love it.
We didn't know that we had
We
that
didn't.
in common.
We didn't know.
Um,
We didn't know.
Now we know that we have that in common, right? So like, ask a question you don't know the answer to, because you actually, that moment, that like silence where like, I truly have, you didn't know I was going to ask you that, and I truly didn't know what your answer was. Why can't we do that more often? It's free.
Can I add an addendum to that? See if you
Sure,
agree
it's
with
your
it.
podcast.
So I
Yeah.
talk about the Google rule that if you could find the answer on Google, you should not burden, especially someone from a marginalized or underrepresented group, with educating you. And the reason I love what you're talking about is it's something that you can find on Google. It's something about me. It's something about my personality. What socks I'm wearing. What was a memory from childhood. Something that you could not get off of Google. So you're not just trying to learn about my experience as a white woman, but like about Dr. V, about who I am. And I think
Yeah.
that's really an important part of that, rather than, so what's it like to be black or gay? Like that's not
Yeah.
not the best question.
Well, let me tell you. Yeah, I there was a interview that I did for a podcast, and the host lives outside of Mumbai. I've never been
Hmm.
to Mumbai, and at the last question that he asked was, "All right, so you are from Texas. You're in the United States. Um, I always try to provide space for this, but like, ask me whatever you want to, as a guy who lives outside of Mumbai." And I said, "Great. What's your favorite sandwich?" And he was like, "What?" But he was expecting something about Indian politics,
Yeah.
culture, race, something global economy, something like that at all. But there's a human thing in there, right?
Yeah.
And so he was like, totally taken off guard, and he's recording it live like you are. And he's like, I don't know. Give me a second to think. What's your favorite sandwich? So then I told a story about how my primary partner's favorite sandwich I thought was disgusting because I'd never had the combination before.
Yeah.
And I eventually tried it, and it is now my favorite sandwich, which
Hmm.
for the rest, I know people are sitting at the edge of their seats. Crunchy peanut butter, pickles,
Hmm.
sliced dill pickles on the it's fantastic.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's nothing about that sandwich that sounds great until you've had one, but it's like salty and sour and crunchy and smooth, and it's all the things all at the same time. So then I tell him this, and so he responds and he's like, huh, I think I would say he's like a panini with what seems to be like white bread, mashed potatoes,
Hmm.
red chili flakes, and like leftover chicken.
Okay.
And I was, in my mind, I was like, that sounds terrible. And then I remembered like turkey sandwiches, right, during football season after
Mm-hmm.
said holidays, or what, meatloaf sandwiches when there's
Yep.
leftover meat. I was like, this transcends culture. I would not have guessed that a meatloaf sandwich would be the thing, right? But that's the whole point, is that like we're two human beings, right? Like if you shared about going bald or not going bald in a particular setting, right? And when every month when I get my hair done, it is dealer's choice what color it's going to be. And there are times where I'll think about the clients I have and I'll be like, we probably shouldn't go too crazy this month. Why? They've seen pictures of me with who knows what color or what haircut or whatever. I don't care. I don't know anything about hair. So, but I'm known for having bizarre hair.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that they all have to be green. It's that that is a
Yeah.
place of expression that I'm known for having, right? So like how do you create those spaces that allows a whole person to show up every once in a while?
Yeah.
Anyway,
I
that's the
love
whole
that.
point.
What a beautiful, that was a beautiful tangent. Okay, so first point, no, in a good way, in a good way. First point, go take your survey online.
Yeah.
Second point was ask meaningful questions. Really get to know someone. Create that space that you just said. For people to be humans together. And
Mhm.
what would be your third and final recommendation for those who want to embody the good enough now? I was at almost doing good. The mindset, that you are helping people cultivate.
Fail.
Mm,
Like
mhm.
as a comic, you are constantly looking to bomb.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times when I'll talk to people or like new speakers or something, I'll say like, well, when's the last time you bombed? And they're like, oh, I don't bomb. I'm amazing. And I'm like, I'm done talking to you. Like, when is the last time you tried something so new you were terrible at it, or revisited something that you used to be good at, but you might have forgotten, right? Like,
Mhm.
uh, right after COVID, I think, when I live in a very small rural town, our local pottery studio reopened. And I was so excited because I wasn't flying yet. And I've been wanting to take classes, but I normally travel so much I can never take classes. I was a ceramics minor in
Okay.
college.
Okay.
Okay. Like potter's wheel are not unfamiliar to me, except I'm old, right? I graduated from college 30 something years ago. So I go to the class, and class is 6 weeks long. It took me 3 weeks to figure out I'm ambidextrous. So like,
Mm.
do I throw better left-handed or right-handed? And then I also had to figure out if I needed the wheel to go left-handed or right-handed, or did I do that?
Mm. Mhm. Mhm.
In 6 weeks of attending this class, I never successfully centered or pulled up a bowl ever in the class that I minored in, right? Like I used to sell ceramics for money. People paid money for my stuff. And in 6 weeks, I couldn't even figure out how to center clay. Um, I need more of that in my life.
Yeah.
And because I don't actively do stand up anymore, I'm sober now, so it's kind of a different vibe. Uh, when it seek bombing, seek rejection,
Mm.
seek failure. And most of us think that's nuts, but then you'll actually realize that you screw up every day, you fail every day,
Yeah.
you bomb it with a lowercase b quite often. So you have the resilience of figuring out and learning and trying again. It's fascinating. I don't have kids, you're welcome, but I watch my parent friends like tell their kids, like, dust it off and just get back on the bike and try again. But we lose that somewhere.
Yeah.
So we need to find it again.
Yeah. I love that. I love that.
Mhm.
Jess, you are just a breath of fresh air. I love that we had this conversation. For those who want to get more of you and work with you, bring you in to speak, how do you recommend them getting in touch?
You can go to goodenoughnow.com and it'll redirect to wherever you need to go. It's Good Enough Now on all the little social media platform things that I barely know how to log into, but check it out. My social media team would tell me to no, tell people to follow you on Instagram. Sounds like a venereal disease to me, but if you'd like to, Good Enough Now on Instagram. That also
On
works.
Instagram. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Jess, and thank you for all that you do to help us be better humans at work.
Thank you, Dr. V. And if you haven't yet, the book is fantastic, very tangible, implementable things that you can do. So thanks for being a better human.
Of course, my pleasure.